I have not received any notification beforehand. Are there any notifications from the floor of Parliament? We do have a notification from MP Bryson. MP Bryson?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, the Kufid, members of Parliament, those in the Tribune and those following up by various media. Madam Chair, I just want to take this opportunity to thank the Governor as well as other legal experts who have chimed in on exactly what I stated last week Friday, that the meeting, in my view and in the view of the Constitution, was not done correctly, and that an administrative decision, so not an administrative act as it was called by the Chair, was required. And it's good to note that the Governor and others are paying keen attention to this type of behavior, and I encourage him to continue to keep a close eye on the way Parliament is being managed at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Bryson. We have another notification from MP Richardson. MP Richardson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to my colleagues. Good afternoon to those who are in the Tribune and those who are listening. Madam Chair, our faction have taken note of the process in which this meeting has taken place and the decision that we are about to deal with. Our faction feel that this should be returned back to a proper meeting of a public meeting to be dealt with, that we don't see how we could deliberate on an issue that is at hand that was dealt with without a real official public meeting. Where that's concerned, so our faction would like to propose that we return to the correct process that should be followed, and then we will move forward and deal with the issue at hand. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Franz Richardson, for that notification. I have MP William Marlin. MP Marlin, for your notification.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to you, to members, colleagues in Parliament, those in the visiting Tribune, and all listening via some sort of media. Madam Chair, I too would like to say that I was extremely happy when I saw the reaction of the Governor, but even more disappointed, rather, when I saw the reaction of the Chair, that what is the Governor now doing, interfering in the affairs of Parliament? Madam Chair, was it not for the Governor? Was it not that the Governor was alert? Was it not that the Governor was doing his job? Madam Chair, again, the rules of order and the rules of our Constitution would have been trampled upon. Parliament is the law-making body in our country. And if Parliament cannot respect the laws, the rules of order, and the Constitution of St. Martin, then who else will? And whenever we try to point out that the Chair is not acting in accordance with the rules of order or the Constitution, we hear the response is, I've taken note, and the Chair continues. Just the other day, the Chair opens a meeting of the Central Committee to handle the budget with 2 members signed in, 2 members. And what does the Chair say? We have established a quorum of 2 factions. That is against the rules of order. The Chair last Friday continues to convene a meeting and then call it, when convenient, a gathering, when called it all kind of things, and try to manipulate those who were present and those who were listening, that, oh, we don't have a meeting, we have a gathering, and in this gathering, though, I'm appointing a 3-man committee to peruse the credentials. The credentials have to be approved by Parliament. And in order for it to be approved by Parliament, we needed to have a meeting of Parliament. And when do we have a meeting of Parliament? When we have a quorum, and a quorum is 8 members. So, Madam Chair, I too join in and saying the only way we will continue with this is if we start at the beginning, we establish a quorum, because the impression might want to be created by some that we are trying to block Mr. George James from becoming a member of Parliament. Absolutely not. The entire budget process we could have, if that is what we want to do, to boycott it.
MP Marlin, your notification, please. We are still on the notifications. Your notification.
Madam Chair, as I said, we will only participate in this meeting if the chair acknowledged that what took place last Friday was not a meeting of Parliament, and that today we will have a meeting in which a committee will be established. The committee peruses the credentials, Parliament approves the credentials, and Mr. Jules James can be sworn in.
Thank you, MP William Marlin, for your notification. MP Silveria Jacobs, you have the floor for notifications.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to you, the Griffier, my colleagues here in Parliament, and those in the Tribune, as well as those following this broadcast. Madam Chair, in listening to my two colleagues, I would like to reiterate the following and quote the make a notification specifically for those following this meeting to not think that, you know, games are being played. To the verification of credentials, Article 3.2, if Parliament has not yet approved the credentials of the newly to be appointed admitted members, after periodic resignation or after the dissolution of Parliament, the committee is appointed in a public gathering in which at least half plus one of the legally elected members is present. And that is the reason why any faction also cannot support that we accept a report from a committee that was established in a gathering where that was not the case, Madam Chair Lady. And so by this, I also propose and accept that proposal, and NA and USP together, we form 7 of the members, feel that this meeting should start back to the point where you have a quorum today and the membership of the committee is elected. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Silveria Jacobs. At this point in time, I want to extend heartfelt condolences to a member of staff of the Parliament, our second acting Secretary General, Mr. Garrick Richardson, on the passing of his mom. Teacher Rosita, as we know her, after her illness, has succumbed in Colombia. And again, to Garrick and his family, his entire family, my sincerest condolences. Today we have as agenda point for this urgent public meeting the ratification report of the Committee to Examine Credentials based on Article 3, Paragraph 1 of the Rules of Order, incoming document number 804, dated March the 28th, and approval thereof, so approval of the admission of the Deputy Member of Parliament for the Member of Parliament, MP Theodore Heiliger, in accordance with Article 50, Paragraph 3 of the Constitution. Going over to the agenda point, on March the 5th, 2019, Parliament received a letter from the Chief Public Prosecutor, Mrs. Moll, informing Parliament that she is sending Parliament a copy of a letter that was sent to the Minister of Justice on Friday, March 1st. The letter stated that the court in first instance had ordered the pre-trial detention of MP Heiliger, and that based on Article 50, Paragraph 2 of the Constitution, MP Heiliger was officially suspended. On March 8, 2019, the Parliament declared that the legal effect of suspension has entered into force and informed the Central Voting Bureau thereof by letter of March 11th, outgoing document number 239, dated March 11th, as mentioned. This is in reference to the letter from the Chief Public Prosecutor, and it goes without saying that this declaration was of a declaratory nature. On March the 20th, 2019, Parliament received a letter from the Central Voting Bureau concerning the acceptance of the position by the Deputy Member of Parliament, IS 754, dated March the 20th, 2019. The Central Voting Bureau handled in accordance with Articles 115 and 116 of the Electoral Ordinance, as well as Articles 45 and 50, Paragraph 2 and 3 of the Constitution, to appoint a deputy member of Parliament. Furthermore, the Central Voting Bureau stipulated that Mr. J.C. James would deputize substitute for MP Heiliger for the period of the suspension of MP Heiliger. On March the 20th, 2019, Parliament received the credentials of Mr. J.C. James, accompanied by a declaration indicating whether or not he has a public function. And in addition to that, Mr. James submitted a declaration indicating that he has not acted in contravention with the National Ordinance Registration and Finances of Political Party. Because Mr. James has been a member of Parliament before, no extract from the Census Office is needed. This documentation is registered on the IS 755. On March the 25th, 2019, a public meeting was called with the intention to examine the credentials of Mr. James. There was no quorum for this meeting, and the meeting was called again on March 27, 2019 at 11 and then again at 3 p.m. For none of these meetings was there a quorum. During this meeting, however, the Chair of Parliament proceeded with the appointment of the members of the committee to verify the credentials in accordance with Article 3 and 35 of the Rules of Order. The committee examined the credentials, and thereafter the meeting was adjourned, seeing that based on Article 61 of the Constitution, no deliberations could take place and neither could decisions be taken. The committee submitted a report on the credentials on March 28, 2019, indicating that the credentials were in order and that there was no impediment for allowing Mr. James to take up his place in Parliament. This report was communicated to the Governor and the Chairman of the Central Voting Bureau. On March 29, 2019, Parliament received a letter from the Governor acknowledging receipt of the report, however stating that there was no decision of Parliament attached to the report of the committee. Hence, this meeting. It is also noteworthy to mention that this meeting has been called as an urgent meeting because it is of utmost importance to ensure compliance with the Constitution, not only Article 50, but also Article 45, that states that Parliament consists of 15 fully functioning members of Parliament. According to the speakers list, I give the floor to MP Franz Richardson. MP Richardson?
Madam Chair, before I have the floor, basically, there's a proposal on the table, Madam Chair, that we have proposed that this meeting be returned to a proper function before the deliberation on this agenda point. That before this meeting could move forward, so I would like for that process, Madam Chair, my proposal to be taken into consideration before I start the deliberation.
MP Franz Richardson, the proposal that you allegedly made was actually a notification.
But that's the reason why I made it known here now.
You cannot make a proposal of order during notifications. One, this meeting is a complete new meeting of Parliament, completely, not a number, completely new meeting of Parliament with the attendees at the meeting as well as a speakers list. I will, in fact, in this meeting, appoint a committee, again, to ratify in this meeting or go over, we can't ratify, go over the credentials just to make sure that it is felt that this meeting is to approve, examine the credentials of Mr. James. This is, however, a complete new meeting called in accordance with the rules of order. With respect to the other matters raised during the notifications by several members of Parliament, I would address those at a later / another time. So, MP Richardson, you actually have the floor at this time.
Madam Chair, our faction do not see the need for us at this time to have a deliberation on a documentation that did not follow the right process. With saying that, our faction will not deliberate in this meeting, and we request a roll call in this meeting.
Chair, point of order.
Your point of order, MP William Allen.
I want to be clear as to what is happening, because there is a convocation for a meeting to ratify the decision that was taken in the meeting of whatever date it was on Friday last. In the notifications, several MPs, including myself, raised objection to the manner in which that was done, and therefore said that we should have a new meeting to start the process all over. The chair did not say so. The chair continued with opening the meeting, and to that I agree with MP Franz Richardson that we need to be clear as to what it is we are doing. Because it can't be that we're going to have a convocation to approve something that we deem did not happen. Because I am curious to know what letter is it that went to the governor indicating there was an approval by Parliament. Parliament never approved it. And therefore we feel the process to reach to sending that letter was wrong. The chair misused the authority as chair and tried to mislead the governor. And therefore, Madam Chair, we are saying no. Let us reverse, start the process properly over. This convocation is to ratify a decision or a report
MP
by
William
members
Allen,
of Parliament.
it's not, there is no convocation to ratify a decision. You mentioned that in your introduction. It is to ratify the report of the committee. I even suggested that another committee be appointed now in this meeting. That's what I said. We are in a new meeting, public meeting number 26, to ratify the report of the committee to examine the credentials. It doesn't say anything. If you want to see the letter that was sent to the governor and whether that mentioned a decision of Parliament, no, it does not. And you can get that letter to the governor to see. This is a new meeting again. Those who are asking for a new meeting, this is a new meeting with only the credentials to be ratified by of the report by a committee. So with that, I would suggest that the roll call be made as requested.
Point of proposal, Madam Chair.
We don't really have a place for counter proposals.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
So, but you might make a point of order, and that has to do with the sequence and the order of the meeting. You may proceed. MP Doran.
Good afternoon to you, the members of Parliament, everyone tuned in. Madam Chair, can we see the report? And I would suggest that we adjourn the meeting for 10 minutes so we can go over the report before proceeding. Thank you.
MP Doran, I have absolutely no problem adjourning the meeting, providing the report and the letter that was sent to the governor based on that report. This meeting will be adjourned. MP Jacobs, your request is for?
A point of order. I will try to understand.
Proposal of order. MP Jacobs? Yeah, because we don't have a point of order, MP. You have to make a proposal of order that has to do.
Order,
yes,
Chair.
you may proceed.
As was stated a while ago, it is confusing, I think, to all concerned. You stated that a new committee would be appointed. When will that happen?
I was going to do that right now in this meeting to assuage the concerns of the members of Parliament who feel that there should be a new meeting. This is a new separate meeting than the one of 25, number 25. My proposal, therefore, because of the concerns of several members of Parliament, was to have a committee appointed, look at them. MP Doran suggested not rather than that, but if the report can be viewed, and I agreed, that report that was made is going to be submitted to the members of Parliament, and for that reason, I will adjourn.
Madam Chair, then I
MP
suggest,
Jacobs?
Based on what you have just said, that the steps that you were about to take, because the report is from a meeting that we do not consider a real meeting, where we had a majority of Parliament, which is half plus one, as is prescribed in the Constitution, a quorum. So I would like to propose at this time, Madam Chair, that you appoint that committee. Adjourn and then appoint the committee.
Thank you, MP Jacobs. As I stated, this meeting will be adjourned, 1, The report that was prepared as requested by MP Duran will be shared. The letter to the governor, as has been contested, will be shared, and I will go over following the adjournment to a selection of a committee to examine, look at, ratify, in any case, according to the Constitution and the election ordinance, examine the credentials of Mr. Jules C. James. This meeting is hereby adjourned for 10 minutes. Meeting adjourned. Members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this meeting. A brief adjournment took place to share with the members of Parliament, one, the report of the committee that looked at the credentials of Mr. Jules C. James, as well as the letter that was sent to the governor regarding the same report. Both of these documents had already been made available to members of Parliament, but they have just again been forwarded. Before going into the appointment of the committee, as I indicated, I look at the speakers list and give the floor to MP William Marlin at this time.
Madam Chair, I did not start my deliberation because there was nothing to deliberate on. Seeing that you made a proposal, a counter proposal, to put the committee together, and then we will have the deliberation based on what was proposed. Going over to have a debate, a discussion on what, Madam Chair, I really don't understand where we're heading with this meeting, where that's concerned. So I would rather we appoint the committee, if that was what we're going to do, and then with the findings of the committee, we will start our discussions if need be. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Franz Richardson. I conclude that you have no need to speak as you had indicated on the speakers list, in addition to what you already said. I then give the floor to MP William Marlin. MP Marlin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, seemingly the report was sent to the P drive. This member still cannot access a P drive to date. But for those who have had it on their P drive, they only had the report, but it's only now that they have received the letter to the governor. Madam Chair, why I have asked that I would be interested in seeing what the letter says. Madam Chair, the letter is clearly an attempt, in my opinion, by the chair to mislead the governor. Why I say that, Madam Chair? Because it says, in complying with the Article 122 of the Electoral Ordinance, the Abbey 2010, the chair is informing the governor that Parliament, in their public meeting of Wednesday, March 27, examined the credentials of Mr. Jules James, and that the chair is attaching the report, and so the chair is attaching the report of the committee. Madam Chair, was the governor not alert and not doing his job? It would have been a fastball by the chair to the governor. And then to add insult to injury, the reaction of the chair to the reaction of the governor is, what is the governor now doing? Getting involved or meddling in the affairs of Parliament? Madam Chair, thank God in this case that we have a governor that was meddling in the affairs of the business, that was meddling in the affairs of the people, because it must be known that every law got to be signed off on by the governor as well. Madam Chair, when we establish the budget, has to be signed off by the governor. Whenever a national ordinance is approved, it has to be signed off by the governor. So the governor got to make sure as well that what he is signing is in compliance with the law. And Madam Chair, so it's not meddling, but is making sure that proper procedures were followed. And the rules of order clearly state that the credentials are approved in a meeting of Parliament. And Madam Chair, to arrive at examining the credentials, because the impression that the chair wants to create is that the chair can call up 3 members of Parliament, tell them pass by me this afternoon or pass by me tomorrow morning, look at the credentials here, write a report that you guys have checked the credentials and the credentials are now okay. And it would have not been that bad had the chair then taken that report, bring it to Parliament and say, Parliament, please approve the credentials. But no, sends it to the governor, circumventing the whole proper procedure. And as I explained before, we are the lawmakers of this country. We have to approve every law. And if we cannot abide by the law, if we cannot live up to the rules of order, if we cannot live up by the Constitution, then who else do we expect to do it? And yes, in our system, we have the governor. Because was it not for the governor, the chair, backed by a majority, would continue to trample on the rules of order and the rules of the Constitution. Madam Chair, every time we point out in here that proper procedures are not being followed, what is the reaction of the chair? I thank you, MP, and the meeting goes on as if nothing has happened. Madam Chair, we have a number of meetings on record, meetings that have been requested and in accordance with the rules of order that are used conveniently or the Constitution whenever convenient for the chair. Then we are pointed out, the rules say so, but the rules clearly say when a meeting is requested by 3 or more members, that meeting has to be convened within 14 days, not 14 weeks, not 14 months. Madam Chair, we have meetings that have been requested and were only put on the schedule 3 months after, 2 months after. No apology by the chair, no explanation by the chair. I believe it was last year, a meeting was requested with the Minister of Tiat, and Madam Chair, the minister sends a letter saying that meeting request is premature. Madam Chair, if the Parliament wants to meet, if we want a meeting with the minister on the conditions of the World Bank or the new terminal to be built in 2030, when the minister is in here and questions are asked, then the minister can say, well, your questions are premature. But the minister doesn't know where we are heading with it. The chair doesn't know where we are heading with it. And it is our right and our obligation, actually, as members of Parliament, to request meetings, to question government, to ask government to give account. But that is being taken away from members of the opposition. Week after week after week after week, we have requested a meeting on the situation with the Minister of Tiat, with the firing of a staff member. I think that is like 2 months ago now. No trace of that meeting. We have requested a meeting about the Minister of Vromi, who got himself in some legal wrangles with because of some drunk driving accident. Madam Chair, no reaction. And we're saying this cannot continue. So what we see here, Madam Chair, we are not against Jules James taking up a seat. We are not against any member once elected by the people or because a minister-elect or appointed minister has resigned his or her seat, that we are going to block the incoming member. That is not the idea, because today it can be on that side, next week it can be on this side. And we would be flying in the face of democracy if we deny the people a parliament of 15 members and we deny the people the right to their representatives representing them in parliament. But equally, Madam Chair, the chair should not deny members of parliament their right to question government, to ask government to be accountable to parliament and by extension the people of St. Martin. That is the reason why. That is the reason why no quorum was given, in order to point out that this abuse of power has to stop. This has to stop. And we could have continued. We could have continued and say, well, we are not giving a quorum. But that is not serving the people of St. Martin. We have the budget yet to be finalized. We have many meetings yet to be finalized. Madam Chair, there are meetings that have started like 4 months ago. And today they can't conclude yet. They cannot conclude yet. This is not proper representation by Parliament as far as the business of the people is concerned. But what is hampering it? The functioning of the chair, not calling meetings, not adhering to the rules of order, not adhering to the Constitution. And in this particular case, when the meeting opened, and that confused people again, because the impression being created is, I sent you the report of a committee, and we are now going to approve that report so it can go to the governor. And we are saying no. That report was wrongfully established because there was no meeting of Parliament. There was no quorum for that meeting. So how is it that the chair appoints a committee during a meeting that is not a meeting? And even if you did appoint a committee in a meeting that was not a meeting, how is it that Parliament now is going to, or why is it that it went to the governor without the approval of Parliament? Now, either the chair was throwing a fastball, or the chair lacks the ability to interpret the proper, the rules of order in a proper manner. And it is not the first time that this chair went through this, submitting credentials of someone to the governor. It was always approved by Parliament. And what has happened here also, normally the committee will return its findings to Parliament, and Parliament immediately thereafter says, yes, we approve. But no, because the chair knew there was no official meeting of Parliament and it could not be approved, circumvented, and if it was brought in 2 hours after or the morning after and say, guys, please approve this, it would have been a different story. But sneak it up to the governor and in a shady way, put it in such a way that if the governor was not wide awake when reading it, the member would have been approved or would have taken the oath, and it would have been on the wrong premise. And therefore, Madam Chair, we had objected on Friday. Today, we raised our concerns. And yes, we are not here to block the process. So we are saying if the chair has made it clear that what has happened last Friday is actually null and void, there was no meeting, or there will be no meeting on record where a committee was established and perused and made a report that we've noticed was drafted already and sent to be prepared for them to sign No problem with it. That's how things can happen. But Madam Chair, for the record, then the agenda point of this meeting would be the approval of credentials, and the steps to follow would be the appointment of a committee. And what was noteworthy also on Friday, while 2 members, one of the National Alliance and one of the USP, had signed in and were present, and there was no quorum, the chair proceeded to appoint a committee of all 3 members from the coalition, which is usually, and I don't want to say absolutely sure, but I am practically sure for 99.9% that every time we appoint a committee like that, it includes a member of the opposition as well. Because it would show when you appoint 3 members all from the coalition that probably they got something to hide. And Madam Chair, we don't believe there's something to hide with the credentials of a member, but let us do it properly. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP William Marlin. I go over to MP Bryson. MP Bryson, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, the Khafir, once again to all my fellow members of Parliament and those in the Tribune with us today and following us by various media. Madam Chair, I would like to point out, I would be remiss to not comment and echo some of the sentiments I've expressed in notifications or even in the previous speaker, MP Marlin, Madam Chair, that the question is, okay, why was opposition doing this? Oh, are we stopping the process? Madam Chair, I believe actually that we have, through all of this, prevented a very embarrassing situation for the country and for Mr. James himself. Because, Madam Chair, imagine if we did not point all of these irregularities and these illegalities out. Perhaps maybe the governor might have missed it. He goes, he swears in Jules James. What happens if the ombudsman in the Constitutional Court says, wait a minute, hold on, no. This was not done according to the proper procedure. How would that affect Mr. James and Parliament and our ability to function? Our job as members of Parliament, opposition or coalition, is always to uphold the rules, the laws, and the Constitution in the best interest of our people. That is a fact. And Madam Chair, for that I would say, you're welcome to the coalition, you're welcome to Mr. James, because our watchful eye has prevented a very dangerous situation for everyone involved. Madam Chair, in your introduction, you stated that this meeting is of an urgent nature. Well, Madam Chair, I have a list of meetings here that I know have been requested and are yet to be called. And I would like, if the public can join me in determining if this is urgent or not. The dump, where the fires have started again. The hospital construction. Tax reform and tax relief. The Bearing Point contract that was awarded by the Minister of Finance. The way forward with Enya and Mullet Bay. The CRS and FATCA laws that were so touted, oh, if we don't make that deadline by January 1st, we are now April 1st. All of these meetings are of urgent nature, but, like has been said many times by the chair, it is my prerogative. Well, I believe if the prerogative is to only focus on what the personal opinion is the best or what is urgent, then that prerogative is being unfortunately misused. Madam Chair, there's an issue that I've heard also come up. It came up today and many times, and it regards the rules of order. And I heard you say again, there is no such thing as a point of order. There is no point of order. But Madam Chair, I have sat on that very chair as the chair of the TIAD committee, and every single meeting that I have chaired, MP Westcott sitting in that seat over there has said the words, point of order, Mr. Chairman. That is recorded. And what did I do? Did I say, MP Westcott, there's no such thing as point of order? No, I said, MP Westcott, your point of order. And I allowed it to continue. Then there's the issue of, oh, notifications are just to be short and brief. Madam Chair, I counted it. MP Arian was chairing a meeting of finance. And you, in your notifications, went on for 4 minutes and 50 seconds about what was said on a radio show and whether your name was going to be attached to the fish market and all kinds of stuff in notifications. If I go over 45 seconds in notification, MP Bryson, your notification, please. That is the definition of hypocrisy, and it has to be pointed out. If we want to set a standard for how Parliament needs to go forward, Madam Chair, I believe as a new member of Parliament, I'm not having it. And I will continue to protest these issues in the interest of fairness. Furthermore, we've had faction leaders meetings. since April that we sworn in last year. We've been talking about the rules of order need changes, the rules of order need changes. MP Westcott has been there with us. MP Peterson has been there with us. You have been there with us. MP Jacob, sorry, has been there. Madam Chair, where are we? Where are we with this? Furthermore, this is since I came in, but I'm pretty sure that since 2010, October 10, already then we knew, hey, there's some issues with these rules of order. 9 years later, nothing? No significant, important changes to the rules of order that expect us to do the job of the people? And this is where the public can go out there and say, oh, MPs' salaries are too high and this and that. But they have to realize one of the things that prevents me from earning my salary is if the chair is not doing her job and making sure that we can do our job. Allow the chair of the TIAT committee to get things done. The rules of order says the committees conduct preliminary investigations in the way they see fit. So if a committee decides, hey, we need a meeting with the harbor, whatever, in my opinion, it should be, just as the chair organizes those meetings, I sit down with the relevant feed of that committee and we organize it. What is the need for the President of Parliament to micromanage the committees? Makes absolutely no sense. So, Madam Chair, these things have to be pointed out, else nothing will change. I hope the public understands that we, having voiced this issue, has probably caused the alarm bells at the governor. You hear different legal experts chiming in on social media, agreeing with the situation. I stood right here, I said, point of order, Madam Chair. Oh, you let that point of order slide, I thank you for that. And I got up and I said, Madam Chair, this is not a meeting of Parliament, so we're doing a decision on a committee. No, MP Bryson, this is not an administrative decision, it is an administrative act. I hope that answers your question. Well, apparently my question was not answered, as the governor and many legal experts on the island have concurred. This is the issue that I believe going forward, we have to take this serious. We can play politics, and that's the game that I guess it's called, or the way it was done in the past. But I believe if I look at the fresh faces we have here and the motivated people we have here, then we could really do much better as a parliament. But, Madam Chair, it starts with you. A fish rots from the head down, Madam Chair. That is a fact. And if we don't improve that situation, what's going to happen? Status quo? Unacceptable, Madam Chair. And I want to show an example of how the non-calling of meetings has even cost this government potentially hundreds of thousands of guilders. 7 months ago, we had a meeting, and a motion was tabled by my person for a tax collection agreement. I even included a draft of what said agreement is. I am aware that Airbnb is waiting for government to come with this, ready to sign a tax collection agreement. Madam Chair, had that motion been tabled, and had that meeting not be adjourned suddenly because the chair had some place to be, Madam Chair, we would have been collecting 6 to 7 months of taxes on Airbnb that is currently not being collected. And St. Martin has never seen more usage of Airbnb in its history due to the fact that we have so many hotels. Hundreds of thousands of guilders down the drain. Why? Because we got to slow down the opposition. That motion too nice. We can't let him get credit for that. Let's see if government can do it. 7 months later, no tax collection agreement signed with Airbnb. I checked. And this is where I want everyone to understand. This is not about, oh, we don't want to, we're playing games, politics. No. We're sending a message, and we're trying to get attention to everyone in St. Martin to what's really going down in Parliament and why the job of MPs is being hampered. I, for one, Madam Chair, believe that one of the most humble things people can do is admit when they were wrong. Although the words, I was wrong, may not come out of your mouth, I believe saying, well, no, we're doing a new meeting, appointing a new committee, and accepting the proposal of MP Richardson is the right thing to do. And that admission, I can applaud you for that. But I hope going forward that we do better in Parliament and in the way we manage parliamentary business. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Bryson. Ladies and gentlemen, this has brought us to the first round of members of Parliament speaking on the topic. And as I mentioned, I'm going to go over now and appoint a committee to examine the credentials as has been received from incoming MP, Mr. Jules C. James. For the members of the committee, I shall appoint MP Franklin Myers, MP Silveria Jacobs, and MP Franz Richardson. Members, the meeting is still in progress, and as a note, the first name called is the chairperson of the committee, but the meeting is still in progress. MP Franklin Myers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to all my colleagues in Parliament, radio listeners, televiewers, to those of you in the Tribune. Madam Chair, the committee has reviewed the credentials of Mr. Jules James, and all seems to be in order. The committee will send a written report to the chair later today.
Concerning his declaration, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
MP Franklin Myers, you may speak on behalf of the committee.
Yes. There was one concern which you earlier in your elucidation stated that because former MP Jules Richardson was an MP already, Jules James was an MP already, he does not need a extract from the census office. However, the question came up from one of the committee members: what if in that period that person had written out during that time? So how would that affect the person. So that's basically the only concern that came up during the deliberation.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair.
Thank you, MP Franklin Myers, for reporting on behalf of the committee. Thanks to all the committee members, MP Jacobs, MP Richardson, and MP Myers. You are hereby discharged of your duties, and unless a member who already spoke wishes to speak now to the report of the committee, I will consider this report by the committee. Madam Chair has been asked, and that came from MP William Allen. MP William Allen, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I think we need clarity on the extract from the census.
MP William Allen, I'll address the issue as raised by the committee if you just allow me the chance to do so. I will address that matter.
Okay. No, because the chair said that anybody who wishes to speak.
Yes.
So that's why.
So I'm telling you on that point, I will address the matter raised by the member of the committee.
And if I would want to react, that's fine.
Sure, why not?
Okay.
MP William Allen.
All right.
Cooperative chair.
Before indicating that in accordance with Article 122, paragraph 1, subletters A, B, and C of the election ordinance, that I will notify the governor, the chairman of the Central Voting Bureau, and the person admitted, let me address the issue raised by a member of the committee examining the credentials of Mr. Jules James. The fact is that it is not required of the member having sat before. No extract is required. Any questions coming up with respect to that cannot be addressed in the process of examining the credentials. Let me explain, because I'm sure the general public is wondering, what is this discussion about? Members to be admitted to Parliament need to, among other things, submit an extract from the civil registry regarding their status as a resident of St. Martin. However, that is not required if the member has already sat in Parliament, which is the case of Mr. Jules James. So there's nothing that we can do if in the meantime the member has been, or the member wrote out. Fact is, that is what is stated. As I mentioned, the report and this decision of Parliament will be sent to the governor, chairman of the Central Voting Bureau, and the person admitted. And as soon as he is sworn in by the governor, he will take his place in Parliament as a deputy member for MP Heiliger, and to hold that position during the suspension of Mr. Heiliger. MP William Allen, you may have the floor, as I indicated that you would be allowed to do so.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. Madam Chair, we have noticed and we have come across that certain regulations in the rules of order, while they may have been applied for several years, it turns out that they are in conflict with the Constitution. Some of them have been regulated or addressed, and sometimes we have certain things that continue still not to be what they should have been. Madam Chair, why I'm saying clarity is needed, again, not to block the member from coming in, just like our faction, and I believe the faction of the USP also, has no objection to a verbal approval here by Parliament, rather than sending the report back and forth, and then we have to convene a new meeting. Parliament can, once the committee has said everything is in order, that we can approve it here immediately thereafter, and the business can proceed with the member coming in. But what I believe there is a difference with the extract from the civil registry that would indicate the person's date of birth, so sort of like an extract from their birth certificate. And I know that people who are not born in St. Martin before being admitted to Parliament.
MP Marlin, I was giving you an opportunity to make a point, but you're going to have to get to the point.
Yes. So in this case, the member was a member before, and part of what the member had to submit was his date of birth, his place of birth, etc. Once that was the case, his date of birth is not going to change. But in the meanwhile, like indicated, that person could have moved from St. Martin, went to live abroad, and is registered abroad, and is not registered in St. Martin. So I think it is either we are interpreting it wrong or there's an omission, because we can be admitting somebody who is not legally residing on St. Martin. That's the point, and I thought you were going to clarify that, but obviously it was not.
Thank you, MP William Marlin. Well, I clarified the point. Fact is that that's what the law states. The issue that you're raising now, MP William Marlin, thanks for joining the members of Parliament who have acknowledged and seen, not only now, that there are conflicting paragraphs in our rules of order as compared to, amongst others, our Constitution. One of the issues being worked on in the revision of the rules of orders, by the way, the mention of 9 years nothing having happened to the rules of order, let it be noted and recorded that the rules of order have been changed twice since 10-10-10. As I mentioned, this approval has now been given, and that, Madam Chair, came from MP Franklin Myers with a proposal of order. MP Myers, you may make your proposal.
I just have one request from the floor, because and it's on this very proposal of order. Can the chair read Article 44, sub 3 of the proposal of order, so the general public can hear what exactly it entails, because therein as well there is some misunderstanding about the proposal of order.
Thank you, MP Franklin Myers. In fact, so establishing that a verbal report of the committee has been made, no objections have been raised, the report by the committee can be submitted in writing, however it has been done verbally. So that's the committee to this meeting of Parliament. And that information, that it has been handled in a public meeting of Parliament and a decision has been taken based on the report of the committee, will be sent to the governor. I mentioned that. That's one. Secondly, the matter raised by MP Franklin Myers, let's start at the beginning. And the reference by the Member of Parliament that Article 3, sub 2, because the statement that apparently is being made is that Parliament has not yet approved the credentials of the newly to be admitted members after a periodic resignation or after the dissolution of Parliament, the committee is appointed in a public gathering in which at least half plus one of the legally elected members is present. Indeed, that is Article 3, sub 2. The crux being, after a periodic resignation or after the dissolution of Parliament. That part of the sentence was not added in for nothing. We are not dealing at this time, we were not dealing last week with a periodic resignation or a dissolution of Parliament. That's one. With respect to the technical advices having been received and all of the experts as they appeared on social media and otherwise, so are there legal and technical advices on the same matter. Not only advices, but we have a situation where we could have looked at on Curacao and see what came about there. Advices written then. We have a situation of Aruba, where this, in fact, the matter of the approval of the credentials was taken to the court. And the court instructed the Parliament to either approve the credentials or the court would have done it themselves. According to our rules of order, The third time a meeting is called, that's a meeting, no longer a gathering. It is interesting to hear a reference to, and now I quote or paraphrase, the lack of respect for the governor. Now the good thing about being able... Please do not interrupt while
Chair,
I am speaking.
Is the chair taking the floor, or there's a second round that members of parliament need to follow? Because it seems as if the chair has taken the floor.
Guess what, MP Franz Richardson? I closed off the agenda point. This is now before I close the meeting, and I am entitled to speak. I am not speaking to the topic. I am speaking to the serious allegations raised here in Parliament, and I shall continue to address them. I cannot...
Madam Chair, I request a roll call.
You may do so, because this message is going to get across whichever way. So you want to have your say, but don't listen to the response, you may do so, and a roll call has been requested, and I will hold a roll call. I ask the Secretary General to call off the names of, and let us determine who all are present in the meeting.
MP Siddharth Bijlani.
Present.
MP Rolando Bryson. MP Chanel Brownbill.
Present.
MP Egber Doran. MP Artwell Irian. MP Silveria Jacobs. MP Tamara Leonard.
Present.
MP William Marlin. MP Luke Mercelina.
Present.
MP Franklin Myers.
Present.
MP Claude Peterson.
Present.
MP Franz Richardson. MP Sarah Westcott Williams.
Present. Members of Parliament, we only have 7 members present in this meeting at this time, and this meeting would have to be adjourned until we can officially close the meeting, because we have not closed the meeting. That's the point that we were at, and I can inform the members of Parliament and the public at large that the accusations and jabs towards the Chair of Parliament, accusing her of, amongst other things, shady ways of handling, lack of respect, the fish rots from the head, etc., will be addressed in the appropriate way, as well as a false creation of expectation that the Ombudsman and Constitutional Court could have reacted in a case like this. So in order to close this meeting, members of Parliament, I have to adjourn because I don't have a quorum present at this time, but we are definitely not finished with the latter part of the discussion, as I just mentioned. So this meeting is adjourned just for the official closing, because I can't continue at this time. Meeting adjourned.